our guitar for a sec. And it's a big, it's a cool, super aggressive guitar sound. It gets a little grainy sometimes in the top, so I think we're going to want to fatten it up a little bit. I have an SSL preset that I start with, which is basically I'm just compressing a little bit and maybe adding a little 8K and above. We're not going to be adding too much of that because that guitar is pretty bright already. But I've used this compressor to just maybe hit the first light. I don't know that we need any of this. Let's wait till he comes back in. Get up to a louder section here. Yeah, we don't really need that much of that 8K. Maybe a dB and a half, 2 dB. And then I have a series of other EQs. So let's just start. I'm using this 1081 usually to push like 1.8 and say 470. Maybe a little bit at 100 as well. Let's see. So here's in, there's out. And again, I do combinations of different EQs that I've used over the years, and that I really like the top end of one, and maybe I love the 1.8 and the 1.8 and the 10K on the 1081. So since I have the ability to just stack a bunch of them together, and I got ridiculous amounts of DSP, I combine a bunch of stuff with my favorite EQs together. So we'll have that Neve. We're going to use this MEQ here. Let me put that back over here so you can see it. I'm going to push, again, just trying to make this guitar a little warmer because it's really crunchy and bright. I'm going to push just a little more, like 300, something in that range, to make this a little fatter. While I'm using a 560, I might just get a little more of this upper around 1,000, something like that. Now, I could do all this with one EQ you can certainly do it. You can do this at home with, just one SSL EQ or maybe a couple, but these are all, I like certain ranges on certain EQs that I've used, so I'm just using a combination of stuff to achieve the result. But you can certainly do it. You can certainly do the same thing these 4 EQs are doing with one, but I have a particular attachment to some of the ranges on these EQs. So let's start with that. I'm making a duplicate of this guitar that I'm just going to make into a delay channel slightly to the right. So I'm just duplicating this. I'm going to make like a tape echo delay of it slightly to the right. And just where it's playing this line here, I think I'll go. So he has that line a couple times. I'm going to just make a delay on that. I'll show you what I mean here in the track.
The band Jody Moon, the song's called Old Boots. it seems like they work in Pro Tools, which is great for me because I work in Pro Tools as well. So I had them send me their session as is, and I'm going to show you. The only thing I've done so far is just a little bit of organizing how I like to see things laid out as far as where and what is like a track hierarchy in the session. Let me just see what happens with when I play these guitar parts. Investigate his structure a minute. So that's the main guitar. Oh, I see. He's got some rooms. So the rooms he has going through this e-guitar stereo thing, which is a little bit, he's darkening it up a little bit, adding some compression, adding a little saturation. That's smart. And that's just a meter. Once again, I didn't know there was a meter. That's cool. And it seems that's... Sounds like he's in the same room, tapping away. Right, you can hear it in the room. Which he took off. Because that's his foot. Oh, I see. So then, okay, so then he mic'd that. All right. I'm going to cheat. Basically, what I want to do is take his guitar chain and then bus it to another auxiliary, shall we say. But really what I want to do is a folder stack. Everything that's going to a guitar, I'm just going to make a folder stack. The guitar sounds, it does sound good, but it's small. I need to thicken it up. Let's do the Manly Varimu on the guitar. Let's see. I kind of feel like turn my quick keys on so I can see what's going on. Ah, there's no automation going on. Okay. Just wanted to look. Now in this case, the headroom going on is a little bit on the lower side. And I know I'm going to sound crazy by saying this, but I really don't want to mess with the relationship between these. I mean, literally sources in a case. This is the guitar direct, and this is the 2 room aux processing. I don't want to mess with that. So, but I do want more gain from those 3 to hit my guitar folder stack. So I can... Oops. Highlight that. So with the manual, I'm just going to do some slow attack. I'm going to do the recovery pretty fast. I'm going to do just a couple dB of compression. And it's a little cheap to tell because I'm using the Manly 2 to do a bit of a gain also. And I could get it by, maybe I should just do that. 1 second, guys. Call this, and then there's no automation, so if I just, yep. So I'm just getting more gain to my Okay. Giant saying he flipped the phase on the main guitar track compared to the rooms, which I just checked it does. It's got a little distortion going on. A little spring. Oh wow. You got a cool tone out of it. The one thing I'm noticing, the guitar sounds, it's a little harsh. I'm gonna put taking out a little bit of that 3K right in here. If I go hard. The hard settings feeling better to me, just taking out some of this little bit of brittleness out of it. So now I want to start brightening things up a bit. There we go. And then also, I'm going to add some low, like 110 hertz. And then I'll do a little bit of high passing here just to take, I mean, because quite frankly, there's nothing really going on down there. 70 hertz in the program part of the guitar itself. But I don't want to make it too thin sounding, but I do want to get rid of any kind of like low end rumble that was going on while it was being recorded. So I was. So the guitar part, that accent that he's doing. When he's hitting it a little hard, it starts to get a little obnoxious jump out, but here's the thing, it's part of the performance and part of the tone. I don't want to take it out necessarily, but I think I should control it or tame it a smidge. This is where Q3 Fab Filter comes in great, because I don't even have to listen to it. I can just see where the problem child frequency is, and then click on it, make it and then make it do dynamics. So right now I'm just, and I can kind of, so then that's with my processing, and that's without. It's just making that string smack softer. Still hear it, but it's just not as aggressive. That sounded good though. Got a little hotter. Liking where I just went back to the EQ. The EQ. Sorry, I just went back to the guitar. I'm liking where this whatever it is, couple dB at a shelf at 110. I'm liking that, but I'm still feeling like the guitar feels small to me. So I can, or come on, let's try something else. The Trident. I'm gonna add 250. The Trident A range is a great plugin. It's on the UAD platform and it's on Softtube. I kind of think that Softtube did it for UAD. This EQ is so rad for guitar stuff because it already comes stock with 250, 3K, 5K, 7K, and then the high frequency is like 8K, 10, 12, 15. So, and then the low is down here. It's like this perfect magical spots for guitar EQ. I mean, it works for everything, but I'm already adding 110 on the 1084, excuse me, 110 hertz on the 1084. But I was messing with it for a minute, seeing what it sounded like at 220, and it didn't sound as nice to me because I'm liking what it's doing on the 110 down here. But I do want the guitar to feel a little bit thicker. And now, mind you, once I start adding other elements, I might come back and remove some of this. But however, like I said, I want it to be thicker, so I'm just going to use a different EQ on a different band, which, hey, why not, right? We got plenty of processing power here. Like 3 dB at 250, there we go. Now the guitar just feels a little fatter sounding.
Guitars, I love my 57 and 421. And like the drums, I like to bust them together. My whole deal is I can't stand when I get a bunch of microphones for a guitar cab. Because to me, as a producer, my job is to help these people create their sound. And if someone else sends me a track to mix, and I've got 4 different microphones, now I'm kind of becoming the producer as the mixer and choosing what this sound is, what this person's sound is. And I might mess up. The artist might not like that. So to me, I'm going to give that sound. So if, for a chance, someone else had to mix this, they would put up those guitars and say, oh, wow, I understand where they're going with this. Not like, oh, I got to put all these things up. Because to me, when I have 4 guitar tracks, let's say someone gives me 4 microphones, and then they have 10 overdubs. That's 40 tracks of guitars. That's way too much work. That's way too much work to be doing while you're mixing. To me, I'm gonna have a total, let's see, 2, 4, 6. I got basically 6 main kind of tracks whether they're octaves or main rhythms. So the whole cohesiveness of it comes from those 6 tracks. And it's very simple as opposed to coming from 40 tracks. Because the more tracks you have, the more you try to fit things in, the less you focus on the other elements that are going on. To me, it's like you got to keep this stuff simple. If you get it over complicated, it takes longer, and it also you start to listen differently, and you start to lose focus. So to me, as a mixer, your best times are in those first couple hours where you're really focusing on sounds and styles, and then later on, you're doing the little rides here and there, but you know when you're there that your bottom end is good with your drums or your bass or your guitars at a good level. You'll see my guitars, if you look at the EQs, not doing a lot. Little high end, maybe scoop it a little mid-range out, nothing drastic. The octave guitars, just rolling some bottom end off. The reason why I roll bottom end off is because in the guitar, there's a chunk sort of thing that happens. If you're doing palm mutes or bigger chords, you're getting a little bit of loose kind of bottom end. To me, you gotta get rid of that stuff. You gotta clear it up so you have space for the bass. I mean, that's the key right there. It's because the bass needs to take up most of that frequency in a band like this. Every situation's a little different, but for this kind of stuff, for me, that's what I need to do. I'll take my rhythms. Rhythms are the Bogners. They're these guys. If I listen to the verse, you'll hear the chunks. Now, one difficult thing that I always have recording is when I get a good loud sound for guitars, if they're playing just strumming chords, the volume seems very consistent. But when they do chunks like this, da-dun, 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 that's where you start to get flappy bottom end that explodes a little bit, and it starts to peak things. And sometimes that's where you start to get crackles because it crackles things up. I always try to get as hot levels as possible, but if I have to go for a quieter level, it's because I'm trying to avoid getting those clips. And occasionally, in this track, you might hear a couple. And the recording's a funny thing. Like, did I know they were happening while they were happening? No. Did I hear them while they're happening? No. Am I concerned? Not if they're very minimal. If when we were recording I heard it, I would change it right away and I'll back my volumes down. But in general, recording isn't as, it's not always as controlled as we think it is. You have artists that come in and they got to keep it in tune. They got to play in time. They got to be a good mood. They got to be happy. And a lot of times, I'm not saying you rush anything, but you have to cater to those things. So you look at your options of how to work with people and how to get sounds good. My initial thing is pick up the guitars, run it through an amp, sit there with the artist, tweak the amp the way he likes it, and once he likes it, if I think I can make it better, I'll say, hey, what if I did this, this, and this? And then we go back and forth. And if they like it, they keep it. If they don't, we roll it back. And we work as a team, and we build that guitar tone. Because to me, it's about the artist. This is all about the artist. It's not about what I want. It's about my knowledge of how to get things, but it's also making these people happy and giving them the sound they want to get. So we'd focus on those rhythms first. That would be the first thing I did. And then we look at octaves. We threw octaves in the choruses, the pre-choruses. I'm going to listen. I'm going to see if that's a similar tone. So you're going to notice something interesting here. When you look at my octave guitar and you listen to it, you're going to hear that in that pre-chorus, it's the Bogner, and I can tell that's the Bogner. But when the chorus happens, you're going to notice that the tone changes. The tone gets a little darker, and this is on the same track. I can tell what I did is I switched to a Soldano. Now, a lot of people would say, well, you need to put that on a different track, Cameron. Well, I don't want to put it on a different track, because to me, when I was tracking this, I tracked that pre-chorus, and when I went to the chorus, we switched the amps over, and I kind of listened to the levels, and I kind of pre-mixed to what what I thought the chorus level should be with a different amp. So to me, I like that it's not as high-endy, it's a little smoother, so when the chorus hits, the vocals can lift, the guitars can lift and get bigger, but they're not just all getting brighter and overwhelming our ears and getting too harsh. So it's not a mistake that I did that. It might look like it. I don't know. It's just the way I do things. I like to pre-mix as I go. And you'll notice here, there's like a little edit in one spot where I cut out a guitar. So to me, by pulling out that one guitar, it's a little trick. It's like, it's making things smaller to make things bigger. Simple. It's interesting to me. Sean, the guitar player, he loved that kind of stuff. On his demos that he would send me, he would do that stuff all the time, taking the left side out, taking the right side out. It's just fun little tricks we do. When we get to the next batch of guitars, it's called harmony guitar. Let's see what it's all about. Now you guys are going to beat me up a little bit because you hear that guitar track has a bunch of that kind of loose. Why did I keep that, mate, you ask me? It's like, you know what? We did the song fairly fast, and not everything has to be labored on, because when you put that in a track, you don't notice it. It still sounds good. And it's like they're human beings. That's what it is. So it got kept, and there's nothing wrong with that. To me, it's like recording isn't just about being anal all the time and make everything perfect. It's about making things exciting and fun. So whether I did it perfect or not, it's just the way it is. Next, solo section. We had a solo in there. Nothing fancy. You'll see it's one track. So I don't even know what amp that was. Sounds kind of like the bass bin with a pedal on it. I honestly couldn't tell you. We just put it up and started goofing around. We probably threw the Bogner up, threw the Soldano, and just found something that we thought was interesting and ran with it. Not a lot of effects. This song doesn't need a lot of effects, and you'll notice when you play it as a whole, it's not like an 80s solo or anything. It's more like a rhythm kind of solo. So we did that, and you'll notice at the end of that solo, it kind of goes into this like reverby thing. It's kind of quiet because I don't want it to overlap the vocals. Another thing here is like, you'll notice that I printed all that reverb and all that stuff on there as opposed to waiting till later. I sat there with the guitar player, Sean. I said, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Until I created that or we built that. And that way it's down there for good, as opposed to putting it on another track and maybe losing the plugins or something like that. It's done. It will always be that way. The other thing here is we had a little bit of clean guitars. Let's listen to the clean guitars and see what they're all about. Not very clean. Okay, so they're not actually clean guitars. I call them clean, but they're verse guitars. And with these verse guitars, you're like, Cameron, why do they sound so terrible? It's like, well, you look at the EQ, I'm filtering it. The key to that is I'm making the verse sound small so the chorus sounds big. You look here, just rolling off a ton of bottom end, adding a little high end, panning it left and right. And you'll notice there as well, there's no bass. So to me, the whole mix gets to suck down there and become small, and then the pre-chorus starts to kick in, it gets bigger, bigger. The chorus, obviously, you get all your guitars coming in and popping up there. So what I like to do, and I'm not seeing, I'm seeing people get a little bit, when people listen, people have a tendency to listen to smaller pieces. And for me, a lot of times I like to listen to longer, bigger sections of a song, because to me, when you're building a song, you're not just building the parts. And yeah, sometimes you focus on your spots. You like maybe loop the chorus or loop the verse to get it right. But to me, a lot of times, I want it to be fun. So I basically I'd play the song over and over and add guitars in, take them out, listen to the verse, let it go, and let the song kind of grow and just enjoy what I'm doing. Not moving the mouse around can get kind of bored and kind of boring and tedious, but to me, it's just, you know, we're here to have fun. If you're not having fun, you should probably do something else. So to me, this stuff's fun. It's fun to compress, EQ, all that kind of nonsense.
Gonna play back the intro, just the whole mix. All right, so the first thing is the lead guitar. So that's pretty rowdy, raucous tone. That's pretty much how it came to me. Looks like I boosted a little bit of 3K and I boosted a little bit of 300, and and a little bit of top end, a little bit of the shelf and the 1073 to make it speak. So let's just hear why I did that and see here's what it came to me as. And here's what the EQ. That's sort of an EQ setting, I think, when I just want to make it more. You know what I mean? In other words, it doesn't need to be brighter, it doesn't need to have more low end, it just needs to have more of what it is. When I mix for Joe Ciccarelli, sometimes a note will come back saying like some element needs to sound more important. And to me, more important means boosting low end, boosting mid range, and boosting top end, just making it more. And then we have the opening, the big football guitar rakes, and these guitars, the lead guitar is Eric Dover. Eric also played this guitar here. So Eric did that, and that's with guitar rig. It wasn't big enough, so Roger had me play guitar on it. I added an electric guitar and some acoustic guitars. So I added an electric guitar on the right. I think we wanted it to be more stereo, and it just wasn't enough just to have a rhythm guitar on the left and a solo spread out. So I played it with a different chord voicing on the right side. So when you put the two together, and now here's what's funny is that guitar sound is, well, look at that. That looks like Batman or something. So this is interesting. This is an EQ that probably came along from the tracking, from the overdub session, And when you EQ something that drastically, it's because you're carving something specific. So I left it in place. But let's hear this guitar sound with both of our guitars without any, and there's also guitar rig. And so I think that I probably just, because I didn't want to have multiple guitar sounds, I probably just dragged and copied his guitar rig onto my track and played into that. So it's the same amp with different voicings. So if we take all this off, it's this. And when we put everything back on, so a pretty big difference there. That looks like it's also going into some parallel compression, which is probably just an 1176, just designed to just make it sound a little bit louder. So then, in addition to that, I added these. And that's just a pair of stereo acoustic guitars, just playing the open chords, and then the same chord shapes with a high-strung guitar. And because this was a pretty big session, I just played those 4 guitars down and then just bounced the whole thing down to a stereo track. You know, without them, it's glorious, but just not quite as glorious. Let's hear them without. And then with them in. Sometimes to make it sound like 2 guitars on stage, you have to add acoustic guitars and you have to add these little things to just make it sound more like a record. And then when we get to the first verse, let's hear that guitar. Basically, I cut the rhythm tracks and then I did whatever the main instrument was to move it along. If it was a keyboard song, then I would do the main keyboard. If it was a guitar song, I'd do the main guitars. And then from then on out, gave the band the files, and they went on and worked with, amongst themselves and with other people. This guitar part, as we were going through the songs, it sounded cool with Tim and Eric playing together. So I put 2 mics on them, and we put one to the left and one to the right. And that wasn't as interesting as I basically took a U87 and put it in figure 8 and had them on either side. And though that's not an impressive sound when you play it on its own, it's when the verse sucks down and the focal point goes to the lead vocal melody, this is what worked. And so that's 2 guys playing together at the same time, in mono, pretty much right up the middle. When something comes in with a bunch of plugins, I look at it as if they recorded it that way and that's what's on tape. And if I want to go EQ, I don't revise their EQ, I just drop an EQ after their EQ. And even if they're boosting low end and I'm cutting it, I kind of don't care. And part of that is because I really want to treat it like this is the way it was meant to be. And then also, because if a client comes back and says to me, hey, I like the way the acoustic guitar sounded in the rough mix, I can just go take my plug-in off. And so some of that is for logistical reasons. That was how the track came to me. And then let's see, what did I do? I bet you I boosted some 5K and boosted a little bit of 100 hertz. Let's hear what that sounds like. So I made it a little bit brighter. That was probably, when I solo it up and I toggle it on and off, it's a pretty subtle difference. So that was probably, I was probably working in the context of a mix and just wanted that guitar part to speak a little bit more. I'm going to play you out of the intro into the first verse and through the first half of the verse. Here we go. So okay, so halfway through the verse, basically the guitar chords are doubled with an electric guitar. This is Eric Dover. And then there's a little Queen stab here. This happens in the next verse. I'm going to play that one instead because it's more impressive. This one sort of hints at the Queen stab. The other one is the full Queen stab. So we'll get to that one in a little bit here. Same thing happens in the next verse, except for there's a little. Let's see what is happening up here. So basically, we're just doing is we're. Eric Dover, the guitar player in the band, is kind of a wizard, and not kind of a wizard, he's totally a wizard. And he comes up with some really inventive guitar parts. This was, and then, obviously alluding to Queen, not making no beating around the bush about it. And then, for some reason, we wanted to make it even wider, so I matched his part and blended it in with something even more synthetic sounding. And when you play the two together, it's that little. And that's the verses, and then let's see, I don't even know what this small business is here. Let's see what this is. I don't even remember. Just a little bit of feedback, just right before the first chorus, just to make it feel a little more. Didn't make or break that chord or that moment, but it's in there just to give it a little bit of excitement. Okay, so now we're into the chorus, and let's just hear our chorus and see where our guitars are at. See how many guitars we have. Basically, these are just guitar licks that double the bass guitar that we just added while we were mixing. Cool. So yeah, that's something that I do quite a lot. Is if a bass line is, a lot of people do it. If a bass line is, you try to get it to speak on those lead lines as much as you can, and if you feel like you need a little bit more, just play it an octave higher on a guitar and just blend it in. Here's a beautiful little guitar part that is worth pointing out. It's typical. If a verse is 8 bars long, you have it's usually a 4-bar melody line, and then that melody line repeats again, and you got to up the ante. And Eric Dover, guitar wizard that he is, came up with this really cool. He calls it the twinkle bleep, and it's this cool harmonic guitar pattern. And I'll play it for you without the bass. Here it comes. which if we hear it in the track, and I love that. I think that's awesome. So the second chorus is built a lot like the first chorus, you know, but you got to up the ante. This thing needs to get more and more exciting as it goes. So there's some arpeggiated guitars. Looks like I probably boosted a little bit of mid-range on them just to get them to speak a little bit. And that was it. As you can see, my sort of go-to for just utility basic EQ settings is the Slate 1073. That's what I tend to, especially for boosting mid-range. I love the Neve and the API stuff probably the most. Then we get into the bridge. Let's play the bridge, or we get into the waltz here. Okay, cool, that's fun. Okay, so we're in the bridge now. We got some hot licks coming up. I believe this is Tim Smith. The bass player is also an awesome general musician, guitar player. He plays a lot of the acoustic guitar on the record, and I think he did some of this stuff here. And let's see, how did that come into me? That came into me like this. Boosting some 3.2K, so boosting some upper mids, boosting a little bit of top end. I like this Isotope. This is like a free plugin that just makes it wider. I just wanted this one to sound like it was outside of the mix. And then a little bit of delay just to, you know, again, just make it come to life. So without, you know, just a little bit more. And then there's another lick here. Oh yeah, like a slide guitar, sort of slack key Hawaiian. I think there's let's listen to this spot in the song here. There's a reference to Hawaii, and so whenever you mention Hawaii in a song, you have to have a slack key slide guitar. It's a rule.
All right, little plucky guitar stuff. Chorus. Very cool. I remember this thing being super cool. It's like a Leslie. Wild. All right, second verse. There's a whole package of second verse stuff. And this is the bridge. So I'm listening to this stuff. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. We're gonna have to see where the song takes it, but I know I'm probably gonna try and move it around, like make it interesting, make sure there's scene changes in each of the different sections of the song. All right, this is interesting. One little lonely acoustic. We'll go back and talk about that later. And then tons of keyboards, because she's a totally cool synth programmer, and she's into all of this stuff. So let me see what's going on here. So usually when there's a ton of keyboards, I'll try and identify stuff that I can help move out of the middle. Because if you have everything stuck in the middle and you have drums and bass and guitar and then all of these keyboards, you're not going to hear them. It is not beneficial or necessary to have like, oh, this is the highest 5 piano sound that I can have, and try and jam it in there. So I'm noticing as I do this that like this piano, I used a little Haas effect preset that I have that moves it from whatever the normal piano sound was to really wide and a little bit out of phase on one end. So, we might get busted by our recording school teachers if they found out that I did this, but what it does is it moves it outside of the speakers somewhat, or it moves it away from the middle and away from the vocals, so you can still hear it without having to crank it and without things getting muddy. And then as I look through all of these synths, I notice that I'm doing that a lot. I'm doing that on this one too. Doing it on this one. Again, just trying to find ways to keep space. Oh yeah, I remember that. This one I'm actually kind of screwing up so we can hear it. We'll come back to these later because out of context, this doesn't really mean anything. I wouldn't be necessarily EQing these yet until I know what they need, but you have to know what's there. Oh yeah, so when you listen to the rough mix and you listen to just the whole thing, you'll notice that that sound, and it looks like this one too. This sound was an important sound in the song. It's kind of a point in the chorus that kind of sets it off. Has to cut through a ton of guitars, right? So identifying that as something that's going to stand out, that thing, it's like, okay, so I'm probably gonna, after I get drums and bass kind of ballpark, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mess with that and see if I can make it stand out. So as you can see, like what I ended up doing, here's the original, which is cool, but it's not gonna stand out. So then I gave it some distortion and spread it outside the speakers. And then I also duplicated it down here, gave it a high octave with little altar boy, and then just got rid of all the low stuff because all I wanted was the brightness on it. More outside of the speakers, again, some more distortion, a little bit of reverb, and then that makes, it's kind of fun. That makes this sound into this sound, which is going to cut through a lot better. And I noticed that down here, coming out of a transition, there was one that I wanted different. And I don't remember why I did that. Oh, because it was by itself. So this guy's a little bit different than the guy above it. What do we add to it? Another EQ, just taking some high end off of it so it didn't step on the vocal, I think. All right, so there's all the parts. And I know I'm cheating a little bit because I've already got my levels, but generally that's the approach that I would take, starting with the drums, adding in bass, and then adding stuff in as we go. Any questions? You can't talk to me. It's all good. So these are stereo guitars, or they're cut stereo. But for whatever reason, I decided that in this intro, it would be cooler to throw them hard left, hard right, right? So maybe this is what it is intended to do, and it actually has stereo information in it, but that doesn't mean you have to keep it stereo, right? So I thought it sounded more interesting and more open to do this, and that left room for the really fun stuff in the middle instead of everything blending. It really sticks out more when they're off to the sides. Also, it's gonna get it out of the way of the vocal, which we know is gonna be there. So you can make a really beautiful mix without the vocal and not leave enough room, and then when you put the vocal in, now all of a sudden you're struggling to get it to rise over the track. So I probably just said, you know, we got a beat in the middle, we got bass in the middle, I'm gonna throw the guitars to the sides. And then we come to the chorus. So let's see what we did to these guys. If somebody cuts overdriven guitars, there's really no excuse not to just keep overdriving them. So I do that a lot. Let's see. Probably went too far with this thing, which is why it was off. But this is a really cool guitar box. So let's see what we're doing here. These are kind of the main chorus guitars, so I'm getting rid of a little low-end garbage and bringing some articulation out. This thing is super cool on guitars. All it does is spread it out and give it a little mid-range. You can mess around with the mid-range with this knob. As you can tell, it makes a huge difference in the tone of the guitar. So use sparingly sometimes, but this takes guitars and just kind of moves them up and out, which again is making room for the vocal, making sure it cuts through and stands apart from the stuff that's going to be in the middle of the track, the bass, the snare, the kick, the vocal. Let's see what else we did. Again, back to the effects. As you can tell, there's barely any effects, right? But it gives an interesting tone. A little bit of level, a tiny bit of tone, and then this, it just felt better to me to have a little bit of motion in there because the drums were kind of that like straight. Just having this pump on the guitar sounded really cool. And what are these guys? Super crazy. Let's see what we do with those. Okay, looking at this, it's very similar to the guitars up here. What I probably did was just print that because I liked the way it sounded. Same kind of thing, some distortion, some spread, a little bit of EQ, some Helios EQ, which works really great on guitars. And then what I ended up doing with this thing is pumping it through a Cooper Time Cube. Now I have an actual Time Cube and I love the way it sounds on guitars, but the UAD plugin is really great as well. And it's basically just the stock setting on the Time Cube, right? A little bit of clipping and distortion that the box does, and then I think it's 14 milliseconds on one side and 16 on another, or something like that. But it gives a really wild spread on guitars. And I usually just use a little of it to get them to jump out. Again, because this chorus is so thick, finding spots for everything, not just EQ-wise, but also location-wise, kind of helps you make the chorus feel larger and still stay out of the way of the vocal. Looks like this thing didn't need that, maybe. Those are super cool. Leslie guitar, genius. I don't know if you've noticed also, but most of my panning, if not all of it on some songs, is either hard left, hard right, or center. I think that provides the most space and provides the most impact, especially on songs like this. Your mileage may vary as far as like panning parts in, but if I'm gonna have a musical part that's not, you know, part of the wall of sound, especially on songs like this, it's gonna be one thing, and it's gonna be there on purpose. You know, it's gonna be maybe a vocal or maybe one guitar. And I mean, we'll look as we go through this, but I'm noticing that pretty much everything here is panned. Hard left, hard right. Oh wait, there's some in the bridge, so we'll come to them. So anyway, here's the chorus, and the key to this is making sure it, you know, set up the dynamics so when it hits, it really just like pops. lot of this stuff was really well recorded. So as you can see in the second verse, I didn't do anything to these guys at all. Just balanced them out. They're all at the right level, and they're all, they were recorded really well. Don't need to do anything with them, right? They sound great. So we're gonna leave the bridge because nobody cares about bridges. And that's actually not true. Songwriters care about bridges, but as far as the song goes, what we want is a really cool intro. We want to set the vibe in the first verse, and we want the chorus to hit. At that point, you've either got somebody or you don't. And if you don't have them, you need to keep working until you get enough emotion coming out of the mix, enough excitement that you're gonna grab them. Because if you can't grab them by the first chorus, the rest of the song doesn't actually matter.